right, that's Seth Kamens, and I'm Sean Palmer. There we go. We got it right. Well, I got it. Anyway.
You got it right.
Yeah, Seth and Sean Sports here on StreamYard, backsportspage.com. Thanks again for Randy Zelia for producing the really cool intros that neither Seth nor I could do or have seen in the last 10 years. But anyway, wow. Okay,
not unless you're watching independent wrestling.
No, and welcome to Wednesday. I mean, look, we should just change our day more often because
the last 24 hours, we've struggled the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to lie. I don't think we're going to have trouble with. I don't think we're going to have trouble today.
No, definitely not. Look, stuff came down around 2:00 this afternoon. Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that Danny Ainge was going to step down, not retire. I think he might go somewhere else. But he's only 65. Step down, and Brad Stevens is going to be elevated to the
president of basketball operations.
Yeah, and Danny Ainge on his way out said something akin to, well, Brad wanted this team, so now let's see what Brad can do with this team. That doesn't sound Yeah, that doesn't sound all that.
That doesn't sound too.
I'm retiring.
That doesn't sound too Hoosiery. I expect more of a kumbaya kind of thing between the two of them.
I really think that's a big middle finger more than anything else. I mean, look, we've discussed, and we have had many a listener and many a viewer take me to task on the Celtics and how they are constructed. And a couple of weeks ago on. What show are we on? We're on another show. I don't even know.
The Gary Ainge show.
The Gary Ainge show. I said that Danny Ainge deserved to be fired. I said that 2 weeks ago, and guess what? He pretty much was today. So I'm happy to acknowledge that. But look, the roster construction for that team is awful. I mean, everything about it is awful. We've said that for months. When you put the top 4 salaries on your team all at basically 1 or 2 positions, you are never going to be able to be a championship team. And that's where they are. They have 4 salaries: Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, and Marcus Smart, who all play the wing. And
Marcus is more of a point.
How many assists do you think Marcus Smart had this year?
I do.
He is not a can we say he's not a true point guard, if nothing else? I mean, I would bet, and I'm going to look this up, but I would bet
5.7 assists a game.
Okay, so Russell Westbrook, who's not a point guard either, averaged over 10. Not a point guard. So Marcus Smart should not be on the court at the end of a game, except for defense either. He's just not. So you've wrapped up a whole lot in a whole lot of little. And you have Kemba Walker for 2 more years and approximately $70 million on a bulky knee. So there needed to be changes. The question is, what was the change going to be? And now, Seth, who is taking this job? And I think something has to be said in response to that question is, remember, we're talking Boston. And Boston is not the most, how do I say this?
Racially supportive.
Yeah, that's a better word I was coming back with, but I was going to say open to other people town. And so if you are a Chauncey Billups or you are a Wayne.
This does lead to the obvious joke. And we've made this line 1,000 times, and this is the first. Is Chauncey Billups walking in that door?
But
for those of you not familiar, we've made this going through the door comment 1,000 times.
And it's Tim Duncan's not walking through that door.
But they picked Chauncey Billups.
Oh, right.
That's why it works.
That's well done.
Rick Pitino went to the Celtics in 98, 99, whatever it was, and with the idea that they were going to have the number 1 pick and we're going to get Tim Duncan. And they ended up with a number 3, or I think it was number 1. They had 2 picks. They were going to hope to get 1 and 2, and I think they got 3 and 6. And Pitino made the famous line, Tim Duncan isn't walking through that door.
And Chauncey
Billups actually did walk through that door.
Yeah. So 21 years ago, so 1990, Rick Pitino said Larry Bird is not walking through that door, fans. That was his line, but it was in response to, you're right, Tim Duncan, not getting Tim Duncan.
Yeah, they took Chauncey and then they traded him a year and a half later, and he ended up having a wonderful career in Denver and Detroit. I don't know.
And Minnesota, by the way. Minnesota is where he started that resurrection. He went from the Celtics to Minnesota, where he actually developed with Kevin Garnett, and then moved on to Detroit. So moved on to Denver and then Detroit. Because Detroit, he was traded for Allen Iverson, right?
Yeah. So when you look at now, there's two ways you're going to go. I don't think you're going to go with you go with a first-year head coach with this team. I think you're either going high end, you're going to try and get Jay Wright, or I think you go with someone who's been a head coach before, i.e., a Mike Brown, who has won. And even if you don't love Mike Brown as a head coach, he did lead a Cleveland team to the finals. I don't see an assistant coach coming in here. Maybe you go for a Jason Kidd. I'm kind of stretching here a little bit, but I don't think you go for the first-year coach here. This is a team that, whether you think they are built for a title run or not, salary-wise, this is what you got. And you have two bona fide stars. You have even though he's overpaid, a solid role player in Kemba Walker. And the problem is, as you said, they have no definitive point guard. And although Robert Williams had a ridiculous PER, they don't really have a front court that anyone's particularly scared of at this point.
Correct. By the way, I'm going to share with you something. So these are the odds. So Nate McMillan is the highest at plus 1,200.
Does he not have a job?
He does. He's the coach
coaching
of the Hawks.
Right. So why would he be the?
I don't know. Becky Hammond is number 2 at 1,400. Mike D'Antoni also 1,400. Jeff Van Gundy also 1,400. David Vanderpool. I don't even know who that is.
He's an assistant in Portland. I think he may end up having the Portland job because I think Terry Stotts is one loss away from probably being out.
Coach K at plus 3,300, and we'll get to Coach K in a little bit. Larry Bird at plus 5,000. Tony Bennett at plus 5,000. Chris Holtman at plus 5,000. And our very own Rick Pitino at plus 10,000. Notice who's not on there. No Jason Kidd. No Chauncey Billups. Some of the people that you just talked about are not even on that list. And no Jay Larranaga. Oh, I'm sorry. Jay Larranaga is on this list somewhere. I think he's actually – I'm sorry. We missed the first –
Yeah, that makes you missed like 87 names. You started at plus 1,200.
Sorry, that was something I was wondering. I was like, why? All right, there were 2 graphics. My apologies. So here's the first one. Larranaga is plus 300. Kidd is plus 5. Billups is plus 6. Lloyd Pierce, who was fired for Nate McMillan, is plus 6. This is 600. Sam Cassell at plus 700. Ime Udoka at plus 1,000. Kenny Atkinson at plus 1,000. Jaron Collins at plus 1,200. And Alvin Gentry, who seems to always be the retread guy, at plus 1,200 as well. So Larranaga is in the driver's seat according to Vegas right now.
Yeah, I don't think they're staying within Boston. I think they'll go outside. Larranaga, I believe, is the assistant in Boston. I don't think they're going to stay within Boston. But
here's the thing that I want to bring up. Brad Stevens is now moving up to an executive, right? He's not bringing in Jason Kidd.
No.
He's not bringing in a guy that wants that power. This is the first time that Brad Stevens has gotten that power. He's not bringing in a guy like that. He's not, in my opinion, that takes out Jason Kidd. That takes out Chauncey Billups. I think if Billups comes in, he's going to want some of that control. Maybe not all of it, but some of it. That takes out Jeff Van Gundy. And that, to me, takes out Mike D'Antoni. I think those guys are out based on this. So you're looking at Larinaga, Pierce, Cassell, Atkinson would be an interesting mix here.
You know my feelings on Atkinson.
I do. And then we always come – look, I think the leader in the driver's seat is Becky Hammond. And if nothing else –
Really?
Here's the thing. I think
Why?
Here's the thing. I think Becky Hammond's going to be offered the job. And Pop is going to say, nope, I'm going to be gone in a year. Turn it down. Or there's something behind the scenes going on where Pop is now – if Hammond's in this running, Pop – has that conversation. I think Hammond is the next coach of the Spurs.
That I agree on. And I don't see Boston as the town who's going to take a female. I don't. I mean, look, you lived there for 5 years, 6 years?
2.
Only 2? God, it felt so much longer. 19
months, my friend. 19 months.
Oh, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, because we weren't actually hosting the show at this point.
Nope.
This is around when Sean and I became a little bit after Sean and I became friends is when he moved up to Boston.
Yeah.
And
it was a hard time in my life.
It was a hard time to listen to.
Agreed. More than it is normally.
Yeah.
But so anyway,
now I'm older and it's a little bit easier. But
yeah, okay. So you don't believe that Hammond has a chance here?
No, I actually think you have it right on the dot. I think Hammond ends up in San Antonio when Popovich retires. Because I think for the first woman to come in, I think you need an easy transition, natural transition.
I'd agree.
And there is no place that is more of a natural transition than where she's been an assistant coach for the last God knows how many years.
True. Fair. Okay. But can we also agree that Jason Kidd's probably not getting this job?
I agree. No, I agree. I think it's going to be a coach who doesn't want the power, who's not looking for more than being a coach.
Well, other than Kenny Atkinson, I'm not sure there are any, and Alvin Gentry.
No, you look through that list. I don't think Lloyd Pierce is trying to get control. He's trying to get a second job.
Fair.
I don't think Sam Cassell in his first year is trying to get.
But you just said that you don't think it's going to be a first-time guy. So
no, but I'm going through the list.
So that takes off Larinaga. That takes off Billups. That takes off Cassell. That takes off Aduko. That takes off Jaron Collins. So we're left with Gentry, Atkinson, Pierce, and Kidd.
Out of that group, I would go with Atkinson. I'm still not convinced that they're not going to go college. I think they find. Look, I don't think they see the Stevenson experiment as a failure. He went to three Eastern Conference Finals. That team with the year Hayward came in. If Hayward doesn't bust his knee, that team is right up there, and could very well have made the finals. They had made some moves that were not great, and they had some bad luck. And I do find an irony that the end of Ainge's reign was a whipping by the Nets, the team they fleeced so badly 10 years ago.
So is this the Jay Wright move? Is this where he goes? Because
if he's ever going to leave, this seems like the logical spot.
Right?
He's a Northeast guy. He coached at Hofstra, which is New York. He's obviously in Philly right now. He's won 2 titles. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He's done everything he needs to do. If you're going to leave, this is the most prestigious, one of the 3 or 4 most prestigious, if not the most prestigious coaching job in basketball.
Wow, the most prestigious job in basketball.
Well, I'd say, one of the two most prestigious jobs in basketball that was open today, anyway.
Okay, open today, I get that.
In pro basketball, what other than maybe the Lakers, who's more prestigious than the Celtics?
Well, and I think that's as far as a team or as far as the job, right? Because the job is a lot different today. Look, I think the Spurs job is more prestigious right now than the Celtics job would be. The job, not the team. You and I talked about the job when it came to college. This is during COVID, so it was probably 6 months ago. And we said, which job is a better job, right? So right now, you have the Celtics, and you have to take into account everything about that job. So you have to take into account, yes, the history definitely leads itself down a path, but the salary cap crunch leads itself down another path. The fact that you have a GM that's never done it before is now another wrinkle to this, and a guy that's probably not really through with coaching yet in his own brain. So he reminds me very much of what Danny Ainge used to be. If you remember, Danny Ainge was a coach first with Phoenix.
Was he? Yeah. Do I just not remember this anymore? He was an announcer, I thought. And maybe I'm just kind of blending things because I'm old and tired.
And I may be blending them also, but I believe he was a coach. So
you're right. You are right. He coached from 95 to 99. I apologize.
Yep. So he was a coach, then went the upward route, right? Steve Kerr went the opposite route. He went from announcer to assistant GM and then down to coach. So, I mean, I can't say that I fully believe that Brad Stevens at like 45 years old has all of his coaching done. Like,
probably not.
He's done with it, right? So if you're going to go to that job and you have basically a coach in the GM spot, you're always going to be a little bit looking over your shoulder. I mean,
well, then if you're looking at it that way, then that pretty much negates my argument, because then you're looking for the guy who's desperate for a coaching job, who's afraid he's never going to get it, and this is what he's. But I don't look at it that way.
Or you get the assistant coach that's already on the staff, which would be Jay Larranaga. Which is probably why he is number one on that list. Now, let's talk a little bit about Danny Ainge. So Danny Ainge suffered a mild heart attack in 2009, had another one last year, a year and a half ago.
Yep.
So Danny Ainge is probably not done. I mean, he's how old? He's 60-something years old?
Yes, he's 62 years old.
He's 62 years old. So he's definitely got the chops if he wants to. Now, here's a question for you. Is Danny Ainge now a Hall of Famer? Now, remember, this is all the Basketball Hall of Fame takes into account a lot of things, right?
Yeah. No, I get it. I don't think so.
He was the Wooden Award winner in '81. He was a consensus first-team All-American in 1981. He's been an NBA champ how many times? He's been executive of the year in 2008, an NBA champ as an executive in 2008. He's got a nice resume going, but is he there?
I don't think so.
Certainly not in your hall, not in your small.
Not in my hall.
No, not in your small hall. Now, he could be in the Baseball Hall of Fame with his .220 batting average, 2 home runs, and 37 RBIs.
Hey, if Harold Baines can make it, who the hell knows what the level threshold is?
Oh boy! Please don't get me on the Harold Baines argument again. We've had that numerous times. But my feeling is Danny Ainge is not done. Now, I hope he goes back to announcing.
He was really good.
I really enjoyed him. And since we lost Steve Kerr and we're going to lose Marv Albert after this year, let's bring in another personality. So that's a little precursor to Marv Albert in my last 5 minutes. But he is retiring at the end of this year as well, along with Coach K. A nice segue into Coach K.
No, Coach K is retiring next year.
Right. I mean, after next year. Yeah. So after
Marv Albert's retiring after these playoffs.
Right. So after this upcoming season,
yep.
Marv Albert is retiring and Mike Krzyzewski as well. And John Shire is reportedly the guy that is taking over. Now, when we talked about this, I don't know, a month ago, I don't think Shire, he was on our list, but certainly not high on our list.
Well, but here's the thing. You can only hire a coach in waiting. if you're going to go another year.
Correct.
So that eliminates all the big names, because otherwise your recruiting is destroyed.
But that was done on purpose, right?
Yes.
Like, that was 100% done on purpose by Krzyzewski.
Yeah. Look, this will be the transition. Shire most likely will be the transitionary guy. Matt Doherty did it after Bill Guthridge at Notre Dame. We've seen this before. McNamara will pretty much be a shit show in Syracuse in a couple of years. We're knowing Jimmy B probably in another 15 to 20. So, I mean, it's an impossible situation. And based, with the transfer portal and with everything that's gone on in the last couple of years, it's not overly surprising to see, not dissimilar to Roy Williams, Coach K kind of moving up the timeline a couple of years.
Well, and you have the Olympics this year, right? Which Coach K is part of, right? Oh, no, he's not.
No, he's not. He's retired.
He retired from that. Sorry. So you have Shire, who is 33 years old. Now, Shire does have the possibility of taking this by the horns and continue to go, right? We've seen this before, not as a immediate replacement, but if Shire does well, they're not going anywhere else.
Right.
I mean, he's 33. He is a young coach. Probably the youngest blue blood coach maybe ever. Archie Miller? Was Archie Miller younger?
Probably not.
If you consider Indiana a blue blood, I mean, I think you have to take into account who the blue bloods are at this point. But anybody in UCLA that you can think of?
Not this young.
I mean, 33 years old is when, Boeheim took over around 33 years old.
Yeah, but Syracuse wasn't a blue blood. And
that was like 25 years ago. So, that was another lifetime ago for many people, including myself. But it was interesting that it came out today. I think there's something to be said that it came out today before the recruiting period starts again. And that obviously is by design. Nobody forced Coach K out. I mean, he certainly got to pick and choose who he wanted to replace him, if that is the case. So his staff, we've talked about it, but Shire has recruited Zion. He recruited Jason Tatum. So he's got the recruiting down. It's just a matter of, does he have the X's and O chops? And none of us know that, right? But the Duke lineage is, aside from Jeff Capel, and only in his second job, he did some work in Oklahoma and brought them to, I believe, an Elite Eight, correct?
Sorry, Jeff Capel? Yeah, with Blake Griffin.
Right. He took them to an Elite Eight, and then he moves on to Pittsburgh and has done pretty well there. But other than that, you see Johnny Dawkins in Stanford, and then moved on to Central Florida, where it's Chris Collins, Steve Wojciechowski, Tommy
Amaker's done well at Harvard.
Correct.
But it's
hard. Right. So basically, Mike Krzyzewski's tree is much the same as Bill Belichick's.
Yeah.
They go out.
Mike Bray is probably the most successful college coach that comes from the tree. And he's, Mike Bray's not going, after 15 years, 20 years at Notre Dame, he's not going to be the guy. And Quinn Snyder, who's, done very well at Utah, is not going to leave, is not leaving Utah to go back. And again, the whole point being, you can't bring someone in with a year in waiting who already has a job as a head coach.
By the way, when we say Utah, we don't mean the Utah Utes. He's in the NBA. He's playing
the Utes.
The Utes. Aren't they the Utes? They are the Utes, right?
Utes. They are the Utes.
UTES. It's the Utah Utes. You got that look that I'm wrong here. Am I wrong?
No, I'm just something else.
That is their name, the Utah Utes. I got something right. So while we're shifting on to the NBA, we have an injury update Joel Embiid, this guy cannot catch a break. Cannot. Has a meniscus tear now. He's definitely out for game 5. They're not going to have surgery. He's got knee soreness, shockingly. And now they don't know. I mean, they're up 3-1 against the Wizards. I mean, he's had his career best, 28.5 points, 10 points.
Yeah, he's been a top 5 player in the league.
They're done without him, right?
Yeah, they
can't beat the Hawks. They can't beat the Hawks.
They have a lot of problems with Atlanta. So, Christ, sorry, give me 2 seconds.
Okay. I love Layla. Layla's tremendous. She always likes to interrupt during the show, barking or otherwise. That's Seth's dog. But anyway, yeah, they're going to have a lot of problems with the Hawks. And truth be told, just like the Knicks have had a lot of problems with the Hawks, the Knicks have been blown out. I mean, blown out. Game 4 is tonight, actually, 7:30. Atlanta's up 3-1. But let's take a look at the last couple of games where they have played. They played Sunday night and 113-96. And then Friday night, they lost 105-94 in a game that was not even that close. I mean, the Knicks scored 13 points in the second quarter. 13 points. How is that even possible? When you look at the deeper stats, and Trae Young has always been a guy that you said, okay, we can live with his offense if he can only play defense. Well, guess what? He was a +9 on the defensive effort, 14 assists, 21 points on Friday. And then on Monday, sorry, I'm just shuffling between screens. Sunday night. Still wait for Seth to get back. Sunday night, Trae Young is a +17, 27 points, 9 assists, 2 turnovers. That is NBA stuff. That's Team 1, all NBA Team 1 stuff, if he can continue doing that. And he did that on 4 for 14 shooting from the field and 4 for 14 from 3, 9 for 21 from the field. So not the greatest of shooting nights, but still a +17, which means he played good defense. That entire team has played good defense. And if you're looking for a guy on the Knicks to blame, you look at Julius Randle. Julius Randle, 4 games, 35.8 points, 27.4% field goal percentage. That's it. For a guy that averaged 45.6 during the regular season. He is rebounding well. He's averaging 16.8 points per game, but that's down from 24.1 in the regular season. When you are playing that poorly, and just to give an idea of what he's done in the last couple of games, 7 for 19 on Sunday, 2 for 15 on Friday, 5 for 16 a week ago, 6 for 23 a week ago Sunday, total 20 for 73 from the field, and 8 for 24 from three-point land. Julius Randle's just not getting it done. And for those that thought that he might be able to get a max contract based on his regular season stats of 24.1, 10.2, and 6, look, yeah, he had a great regular season, but when the Knicks have needed him most, he has not shown up. And that's unfortunate. But if we keep going through the NBA, look, the NBA playoffs have been good. There have been some really, really good games. And I missed one last night, which Seth is happy to tell you all about, between the Nuggets and the Blazers. So we'll get Seth back on. I do understand I missed a great game between the Nuggets and the Blazers last night. And I know that Dame had a fantastic game with 55 points, 6 rebounds, and 10 assists.
Hello?
Yeah, you're here.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
All right, we were talking about, now we're getting feedback from you. So we were talking about the Blazers and Nuggets game last night and how I missed what was a great game. And understandably so, I saw some of the highlights in the double overtime game. Dame Lillard, 55 points, 6 rebounds, and 10 assists. Can't really do much more.
It was absurd. And if this doesn't lead, but the rest of the team was just nonsense in the fourth quarter, in the overtimes. He scored 55 points on 23 shots. That's not possible.
But let me point something out, and I've seen this throughout the playoffs when it comes to Lillard. He does have 55 points, no question. But he's only a +2. So that means his defense is, while he's on the court, they've scored 2 more points than they've given up. So I don't know if that's a trend with them, but Lillard over the course of the playoffs has not trended well on defense. And that may be a sign of the entire team rather than him. So if we look at game 4, Lillard was a +33. So let's take that out of the equation. But last night, not a good defensive showing by Portland. Maybe just no defense played.
They were down 20 in the first half, and cut it to 3. So that's kind of where a lot of the minus came in, because Lillard played just about the whole game. Look, when you're playing 50 minutes and your team loses, you're not going to have a massive plus minus.
Sure, fair.
But they came back literally on his back with nothing else. Detroit, Denver had Porter, I think, shot 12 for 13, 10 for 15. Monty Morris scored 25. Jokic had 38 and 10. It was an amazing performance by Lillard. But what it kind of shows is, and look, we both took Portland to go to the finals.
Yeah.
But what it really seems is this team is just not built to go anywhere.
So that brings ourselves to the next question. Is this the year that you break it up?
I think so. I don't know if Lillard's on a supermax or not.
He is.
I assume he is. But the team is, even though the thought was the team, we all thought, okay, they now have some depth. They don't have injuries. McCollum is a good number 2. Whatever it is, I'm assuming that Portland emotionally is dead after last night. It was an incredibly draining game. So I think they're done in 6, and I think at this point you break it up.
So now, salary-wise, let's look at it. So you have Damian Lillard's earning about $39 million next year on a supermax. CJ McCollum's at $30 million. Norman Powell will opt out, so it won't matter. Derek Jones will opt out. It won't matter. Robert Covington has 12.9, and Nurkic has 12. Those are your big salaries. So there's only one of those salaries that can realistically be traded. They're not trading Nurkic because they don't have another big guy. They're not trading Robert Covington because they just gave up a first-round pick for him, and he's their only team defensive player that they have. So this lends itself to, it's got to be CJ McCollum if you're trading anybody. That's $30 million. CJ McCollum for Kemba Walker sounds great for the Celtics, but it sounds like you're just walking. If you give it to Walker and a first-round pick for CJ McCollum, the Blazers still aren't doing that.
No.
It doesn't get them anywhere.
Nope.
So you're looking at guys that may have that amount of salary, and there aren't that many out there that are going to be traded. I mean, you look at Milwaukee, Chris Middleton maybe, if they don't do anything. Chris Middleton for a CJ McCollum trade?
Middleton's a better defensive player. He's a bigger player. I don't think Milwaukee makes the deal.
So also you do have then Drew Holiday and CJ McCollum in the backcourt, which is –
it's not bad. Although apparently Sean froze. Are you frozen, dude?
Oh, no, I'm here.
Okay.
I said it's not awful, but not awesome all at the same time. That's
a good look. That's a very good backcourt.
Right, but then you're weakening the front court, right?
Right.
Where
you can't have it. Well, you can't have it both ways.
Right. So you look at teams that may have that type of roster spot and space. If the Clippers fail, are they looking to trade Paul George? Because I will tell you that works. You trade CJ McCollum straight up for Paul George or something, you work that out, that works for both teams.
That would be interesting because the question also then is Kawhi Leonard opting out after this year if they don't make the finals?
Well, my assumption is I'm saying that trade works if Kawhi comes back. If Kawhi does not come back, then Paul George is the lead horse and you just ride him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the Clippers have the stones to make that deal.
That would take a lot.
And it would have to be something more than McCollum probably coming back. It would probably have to be McCollum and a first-round pick to make that work for the Clippers, at least a first-round pick. But salary-wise, that's pretty much the only place that I see a quote superstar looking to perhaps be moved or going to be moved out. I don't see anywhere else where you might see that. I mean, you could look at
I'm just trying to think through quickly.
You could look at Minnesota, but Minnesota Towns is not going anywhere, and they're not trading D'Angelo Russell for. Well, they would, but they're
not. Yeah, it's not happening.
It won't happen. So Detroit, no. Milwaukee, no. Indy, no. Miami's not trading out of Bayou.
You're not trading out of Bayou, and you're not trading Butler.
So that's a no. Look, but CJ McCollum would look really good in Miami. I mean, if you gave him a Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and a player for salary filler.
Yeah, but the problem with that is you're giving Portland exactly a better version of what they're giving up. You're giving pretty much. McCollum is an offensive two guard.
Sure.
You're literally getting back with Hero an offensive two guard.
Right, but you're getting back less salary and to spread it around where you may be able to get a $10 or a $12 million power forward to play that position or a small forward to play that position as well, especially if you have Duncan Robinson in that deal.
I don't see it. I don't think that fits. They have Gary Trent. Oh no, they traded Gary Trent. Excuse me.
They have Norman Powell is going to opt out, so they're going to
try who they'll try and resign.
Right, so you don't have a lot here.
No. I mean, you can't really trade Lillard unless you're never going to trade Lillard unless he requests it. And I don't even know how you make that deal. So they're stuck in nowhere land, it looks like. I thought this was the year.
They've done what they needed to do this year. The problem is, just like every other team, they've had their injuries, right? Zach Collins has been out for most of the year. Harry Giles has been out. They made some good moves, but Derek Jones just hasn't developed into what they thought he was going to be. And they don't
Carmelo's 37 years old.
And they don't have an answer for Jokic. And that there's nothing to be ashamed of there because
not too many teams do.
There are only probably 5 teams in the NBA that probably have an answer for him to begin with. Adebayo, maybe. Anthony Davis. Where am I going with this? I had 3 more in my head, and I can't remember any of them right now. Oh, Joel Embiid, right? Horford is an answer.
Where Horford is?
No, I'm saying defensively, he's an answer for it. And Rudy Gobert. There you go. 5 teams that probably have an answer for Jokic. And we're going to see, hopefully, Utah versus Denver, and that will be the offensive defensive series, the same without Jamal Murray from last year. So, Lakers down 3-2. I had the Suns, you had the Lakers. Are you willing to move over to the dark side now?
I'm rooting for it. I think it depends on Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis isn't back for Game 6, the series is over. If Anthony Davis is back, then no, I'm not conceding the point. And we don't know if Chris Paul is playing in Game 6 based on his injury. But, man, the Lakers looked awful last night.
They did.
I don't think anyone watched the game more than a couple minutes because everyone put on Portland, Denver. But it was.
I tuned into some of the replay today, and then you have the Clippers and Mavs, which has surprisingly been the most evenly matched series of the entire playoffs. And
the Clippers, look, the Clippers have recovered from the 2-0 deficit from home. Doncic is injured and is not overly healthy, and they just don't have the talent otherwise to keep up. And you kind of wonder if that game 3, you always wonder when a team is going to turn it on. Is going to kind of turn the corner, whatever you want to call it. And the Clippers have been so snake bitten for so long that you wonder if this is kind of the catalyst to kind of have them go forward. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. So we've touched upon basketball. We're not going to hit baseball today. We've done a little bit with regards to the NBA. French Open. I'm gonna hit the ball into your court. Oh, that was a bad pun.
That was horrendous.
It was horrendous. I'm not a funny guy. And and let you lead with this because we've talked Colin Kaepernick before, right? We've talked Marshawn Lynch before. But the thing is, neither one of those players was the top player in the sport.
No.
And here we have the top player in the sport doing something that is unusual. And I'm not sure if she's getting a bad rap or not. So I'm eager to hear your thoughts.
I don't know what the answer is on this, to be perfect.
Well, first let's explain what it is. So Naomi Osaka, who is the French Open champion, or was, or
no, she's won, but she's the number one or number 2 player in the world. She's won 4 Grand Slams. Most well known of winning the U.S. Open in 2018. But yeah, she's also the face. She is followed Serena and Venus Williams as the face of women's tennis.
And she's also 23 years old. So yes. So she is a younger player, and she is very good. Let's leave it at that. She's Japanese. She's very good, and Japan has not had a player like this, in my opinion, ever. Right? I mean, this is the first player of Japanese descent that's been in the top
one
5.
Player name was Kimiko Date many years ago, who was I think a borderline top 10, top 15 player, but never anything of this level.
Okay, so last week she decided that she did not want to speak to the media after a match. And she said to the French Open, I'm not doing it. And they fined her $15,000. And here we are with her then stating, basically doing what Danny Ainge did to Brad Stevens on his way out. Thank you very much and have a nice day. I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home. And she stated that some of it was due to her mental health, which nobody can dispute whether it is or it isn't because we are not there. But she has a job to do. And part of the job of being a tennis player, or male or female, good or bad,
being a professional athlete as a whole,
when you win a match or when you participate in a match, you have to face the media. That's part of the deal.
Yes.
I have a hard time with this. I have a hard time dealing with, you have the right not to say anything, but you don't have the right not to show up. So as Marshawn Lynch proved, you can show up and say absolutely nothing. Right? I am here to answer questions. I am here so I do not get fined. That is basically the gist of what Marshawn Lynch used to do. And it was funny, but he was right. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. I have a hard time with people giving Naomi Osaka or anybody else a pass for this.
It's damn dog. It's a But yet you feel for her on the other end.
100%.
There's no answer. There's no correct answer, to be perfectly honest. The journalists have a job to do. And you need to be able to talk with the athletes to be able to write the stories. The athletes should not be able to dictate what their press is, because then it's all going to be biased. It's all going to be biased and one-sided. But on the other end, you have people who are not made to be talking in front of the press. And you have situations, not that this has ever happened, but you have situations where, more and more of the mental health issues, and we've talked about this with sports over the years in general, has had a significant impact. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I don't know what the right answer is for this.
So let me just say the quote from Osaka on Instagram. I'm going to take some time away from the court now. But when the time is right, I really want to work with the tour to discuss ways we can make things better for players, press, and fans. She wrote, and I'm quoting from a Yahoo News story. She wrote that she suffered from long bouts of depression since 2018, and that news conferences trigger her anxiety. Quote, I think now the best thing for the tournament, the other players, and my well-being is that I withdraw so that everyone can get back to the tennis going on in Paris. I never wanted to be a distraction, and I accept that my timing was not ideal and my message could have been clearer. Well, you know what? That's good. Like, I hadn't read that. That's good. So I don't thoroughly believe that she should be absolved of the obligation, because if you make allowances for her,
right, then we'll have to make it for everybody else.
For everybody. And you're right in the fact that everybody's going to want this, right? Nope, the journalists have a job to do. We have the people want to know some news. This is part of the news source. COVID has not helped at all, but this is part of the contract in which you sign up when you play professional tennis or professional baseball
or any other sport,
basketball. Right. So in that manner, if I didn't want to be on Zoom calls, I probably would not have my job. If you did not want to write down numbers because it caused you anxiety to write down numerous amounts of numbers, you probably could not be a certified public accountant. It's not just beneficial to have a job. It's called a job for a reason. If it was playtime, then you can have the choice whether to play or not. And you and I have the choice to go play tennis, whether we want to or not. If she wants to earn money and she wants to do it as a career, I don't have look, I feel for her mental illness. I really do. But then she should do exactly what she said. I'm going to step away and deal with my mental illness.
Yeah, if you remember, this happened with a basketball player a couple years ago, Royce White.
Yep.
Who had
wouldn't get on a plane.
And he ended up, you couldn't play professional basketball and really be unable to go on a plane. And there's no real workaround on it. And he never he played a little bit, I think, but his career never materialized.
Well, he was actually offered a bus to go from place to place, but as you said, that's a difficult mode of transportation when you're playing the night after.
Yeah.
But he was offered that, and he said at the end, I believe something to the akin was, I was trying to make a point. It wasn't really about the plane. And I'm like, well, then don't make it about the plane. So here we are. You're absolutely right. Look, mental illness is a big thing, and it's something that should be taken extremely seriously. And if she wants to take care of that, I am totally bored with her doing it. If there is a manner in which she prefers to have a press conference that doesn't have people with their microphones in your face, but in the back, maybe that's something that people can learn from. In that, with COVID and what has happened, maybe there is a better way of doing it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you should be absolved from doing it. Better ways doesn't necessarily mean absolution from it. And I think that, look, we've all learned that in the last, we're up to 16 months now?
Give or take, yeah.
That there are better ways sometimes to do things. Look, Seth and I totally did not want to do video when we started this podcast.
No, you didn't want to do video. I was in favor of it.
Well, I certainly was not. But I was totally against it, and it's worked out great. So, I mean, sometimes you have to work on the problem and find a solution rather than saying, I'm done and I'm not going to do it. And I think that she, by her explanation where she's going to take some time off and then work with the WTA, let's see what happens, because maybe there will be something that is better off than where we are today. So go ahead, Seth.
No, I can't really follow that right now. I guess I should congratulate you on your team from the island, though.
Well, let's wait till tomorrow night.
No, they had not moved on since the last time we spoke.
Fair.
And to beat Pittsburgh in Game 6, and now you've split 2 games in Boston. How are you feeling right now, man?
Well, I purposely did not wear an Islanders shirt today. I wore a Mets shirt because we're in first place as well. So I am relishing in the fact that we are 3.5 up on the Braves. The Islanders stealing Game 2, and I will say stealing because they did not deserve to win that game. But they also were up 3-1 in Game 1. So, I mean, Game 2. So maybe they should have been able to win that game. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good. I still don't believe that they're going to win. We've talked about this off air, Seth. Boston's always been the team that I don't want to face, even more than Tampa Bay, even more than any of the others. I don't want to face these guys. And here we are. So, but I'd much prefer to talk about how Toronto is no longer in the playoffs. But
is it as much fun to you now that even with Tavares being injured?
Yes. And it's not just, look, Toronto in the NHL, for those that are hockey fans, Toronto is the New York Yankees, where you root against Toronto.
No, I thought that would be the Montreal Canadiens.
No, it's Toronto. So Toronto has the most money. Toronto has the most talent right now. They just have not been able to put it together. And everybody in the NHL thought this might be the year, and we're all just very, very happy that it's not. Look, there are signs of the apocalypse, and one of them would be, the other thing is, Seth, Toronto hasn't won a Stanley Cup since the 1960s. So losing,
that's why I'm confused by the Yankee comparison.
Because they are the big bad team that gets whatever they want, and they never
they haven't won a World Series in 50 years.
A Stanley Cup, but yes.
Stanley Cup, sorry.
Yes. But when suspensions come down, it's kind of like, or like things happen. People are like, oh, it doesn't happen to Toronto because Toronto is one of those top 6 teams. But yes, sometimes you want history to remain, and nobody wants history to remain more than all those teams rooting against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And here we are. It is going to be interesting that the NHL has now decided that it's time to look at what happens if the Canadian team makes the Stanley Cup Finals or the semifinals, which has to happen, and they have to go interconference and go across the border. So we should be learning about that in the next couple of days. Okay, so we got about 5 more minutes. I will go first.
I'm gonna throw it to you for the.
Right.
I'm gonna throw you.
Marv Albert's our guy, right? Marv Albert has been around forever and a day, and it's really sad that he's going to go. For all the crap that he took about dressing up and whatever, he's still the best
basketball announcer ever,
and perhaps hockey announcer as well. And one other thing before we go. Today is Lou Gehrig Day in the MLB, which I'm not sure if anybody knows why, but it is to bring attention to ALS, which is alateral. I always never put this in. 1 second. A lateral. I'm never going to remember it. How do we? Hold on. Okay. I got it here. Sorry. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is also the disease that Steve Gleason has down in New Orleans. And today is supposed to bring attention to ALS. ALS is a disease that basically you die from within and you lose all motor functions, and you could still have your brain, you still have your thoughts,
but your physical attributes.
You have nothing physically there. So it is important that this is recognized. It's important that Lou Gehrig is recognized to begin with as one of the, Seth, you have said it before, it's going to be hard to top that man ever. If Pujols couldn't do it, I'm not sure. I'm not sure anybody is going to be able to. But very important to deal with that. Okay, next week we'll talk more about the playoffs and we'll talk about the NFL. Since for the first time, I think in history of the show, we did not talk 1 minute about football. So have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you next week on Wednesday. Adios.